Hey guys, it's Vince. I hope you guys all had a great 4th of July. I just wanted to do a video to cover some questions that I've been getting asked. Hopefully, this will help the masses because there's really not a video I've seen online with this, and it really needs to be done. And what I really want to cover is the components required to building a complete system. Now, when I get asked, and usually I get told, I should say, not even asked, I get told, guys will send me a message and say, I want you to build me a package for my system. And that's pretty much the way they put it. They'll say, build me a package for my system. Well, if I'm going to build you a package for your system, I need to know critical details. First of all, foremost, what substrates do you plan on machining? The materials you plan on machining will dictate a lot. More so even than your budget, because if your budget doesn't match what substrates you're machining, you're pretty much out of in the woods with that. So something to think about, truthfully, what substrates you plan on machining. That's first and foremost. Secondly, how complete of a system do you want? Do you want a turnkey where I build the controller and I provide you the controller built? The only thing you do is install the software and hook everything up and mount your motors? Or do you want a kit that includes everything to do what you want and build the controller and include the software, and you do all the labor and work and all that neat stuff? There's a lot of variables there. And again, typically it deals with mostly where you want to go and what your budget is. That'll deal with more of the budget. Substrates really deal with end all project. If you're dealing with a wood machine or something in that kind of platform, I'm hoping you're really not looking at purchasing any of my stuff, because it's never going to give you the kind of usability a metal substrate machine will give you, especially in a professional format. So think about it from that perspective. So jumping right in, I just wanted to go over, and I've got a couple things here. This is just me on eBay with you guys, and I'm going to show you. If you're gonna buy a system and you're gonna start building it, of course you're gonna need a driver. I recommend the G540, me and probably a billion other people. The reason why is, number one, it's American made. I can't say that enough. It's nice. You always have support. It does come with a warranty for 1 year, and they're amazing about their warranty support. On top of the fact that for the price, for performance, you're not going to touch it. You're getting a 4-driver system, full breakout board built in, terminal block built in, very easy to service, very easy to hook up. Once again, excellent support, 1-year warranty. Definitely the best way to go. So overall, you're definitely going to start with your driver. You're going to want, we'll just say, a Gecko. Now, I get asked this question a lot. Why don't I just sell the Gecko by itself? Well, the Gecko by itself is useless. I mean, it's like buying a processor for a computer by itself. It's useless. It's a component. I try to sell things that make sense in kit form for 2 reasons. First, I add value. Secondly, if I sell in a kit form, I give you more bang for your buck because I know exactly what you need, on top of the fact that it helps me diversify my business by offering you more value, which makes more sales in my pocket. So you have to look at it from an overall perspective. Bundles always beat individual components. Bundles will save you money, meaning if you buy more from me, I can offer it more at a value to you. Now, not every seller thinks like that. I've been around retail for a long time. I've dealt with a lot of major companies, and I can tell you that's the smart way to do business. If you look even just as simple as fast food, you can look that you buying a Happy Meal is a lot better than you buying an individual hamburger. So think about it from that perspective. It all totally makes sense. But to stay on tune with the CNC goodies, we have to look here at perspective. When you're looking at buying a Gecko, this guy's selling with resistor kit, I don't know exactly what he thinks that's worth. Anyways, resistors are about a nickel a piece, guys. So he's giving you the Gecko with resistors for $285. Then you're paying shipping. I'm going to give or take another $7 to $10. You're at $295. You come down here with me, and I'm here with all these guys. If you do the math, you're going to start figuring out real quick. This guy's selling a Gecko with a 48 volt, 8.3 amp power supply for $300. You still need all the wiring, a cooling system. When I say cooling system, I mean fan and heatsink combination. Again, all the wiring, 16 AWG wiring preferably. You're going through with a e-stop. You're going to go through with your regular on-off switch, fuse, IEC power input. If you do want an auxiliary 120 volt input, if you do all that, by the time it's all said and done, it's very, very close to what I'm charging now. You can do the math and figure it out. Again, you are paying me somewhat for labor because I should be paid for my time just as you would be. Overall, though, you could see it kind of balances out. So when you buy your driver and you buy your components to support the electronics, it's very simple. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. You're never just buying just a driver. You're never just buying just a power supply. You really need all the supporting components, which leads me to my two products. First, I offer done systems with motors included, and then I offer a system known as a bare bones system, which, again, incorporates everything but the Gecko. Okay, so if you decide to go out and buy a Gecko somewhere else, so be it. And think you're going to save money that way. If you do the math, a Gecko is still going to run you $275 to $300, so to speak. And by the time you add that, you're at $500 with installing it into the box itself. Box comes with all the wiring. That's a great deal. That's overall probably one of the best deals because you know it was done right. Cooling system is there. Everything is done. The only thing you're left to do is thermal epoxy on your heat sinks and mount your Gecko and attach the two power leads. And, of course, the one lead coming from your e-stop. That's it. So you're good to go. So overall, that covers basically electronics. You know you're going to need your driver set. If you're going with a G540, which is basically the most plug-and-play unit available, you're definitely going to need all the wiring. You're going to need switches, cooling system, enclosure. I do recommend an enclosure. A lot of guys choose to use, some things I've seen online are as ridiculous as a piece of wood. I mean, we've got to, I really want to get people away from doing things just to do them and do them right. I mean, it's going to give them more usability. It's just overall, it makes more sense to put your money towards something you know you have peace of mind than putting your money towards something and making it to where it's just half-assed. So think overall in that perspective and you'll be fine. The next thing I really want you guys to really think about is if you got the controller and you get it done, if we go down on eBay, one of the things I've noticed there's been an influx of, there's a lot of questionable pricing. And what I mean by questionable pricing, you'll see guys selling components, and they're pretty basic. I mean, everything here is pretty basic in the sense of, the pricing strategy is all basically the same in what's included. But then you find one oddball where you're looking here again, and he's offering a completely built system for $449 with a 48-volt, 8.3 amp power supply. Now, guys, if that doesn't draw a red flag to you, I don't know what should. Because that first thing it makes me want to do is click on it, which I'll do right now, and we'll overview it. Okay, if we come in here, you can see what this system includes, which is the Gecko, the 48-volt, 8.3 amp power supply. Oops, sorry about that. And the DB9 connectors and aluminum enclosure pre-wired. That does not include pre-made cables, motor cables. It does not include, I'm assuming it includes a power cable. It does not state that in the auction, so by law he doesn't have to include it. And why I'm bringing that up, as ridiculous as that may sound, I have dealt with guys who did not include a power cable. So I'm just telling you guys, be well aware of the details of what you're buying. So when you see a system that's $449 plus another $20, and it doesn't come with cabling to hook this up, possibly not even a power cord, possibly, that is ridiculous, guys. That is absolutely ridiculous because you know damn well you're going to need your cables to hook up your motors. So I'm going to go out then and buy that, and it's a la carte. Everything is a la carte. He also puts this giant gaping hole on the bottom of the Gecko to allow access to the terminal block, which to me, I mean, to drill 4 holes over here and put ports in, if that's the way you're going to do it right. Don't leave gaping holes in your box. That's my own personal pet peeve. No offense, but either way, you get the gist. Right now, like I said, you do your own investigating. There's a big difference there where you see $449, and then you come down here as one of my packages of $480, and it's like, hey man, what's going on with that? And then you read exactly what you're getting, and then it's like, oh, okay, I see what he's saying. That's what I'm saying. You want it to make sense. Something else he said that it did not come with, which is really hysterical, and I want you guys to know this. He didn't state, now I'm going to go back in there and show it to you just so you make sure I'm not crazy, but the unit does not come with, a DB25 cable, which means you cannot even hook this system to your computer, which is another individual item you have to buy. Once again, just another way that you have to spend more money than to do it right the first time and be done with it. I try to take the guesswork out because I know it's confusing, especially with all the components that are out there. You're trying to do it right, and it's just there's so much information, but it's so convoluted when you sit down and you really think about it to do it right. And it's like I said, you'll get sellers that are selling, like the Gecko and just motors. And that's fine if somebody understands the package, but for somebody who really wants to build a package from scratch, and they say to me, well, build a package, this is why I'm covering this in detail. We know you're going to need your driver. We know you're going to need the wiring and accessories to wire the driver, the cooling system, the enclosure. We've covered that. The next thing you're going to definitely need, and that's why I really wanted to cover in detail when to look at these ridiculous prices, is I want you to look at motors. And the big question, I had a question the other day, and this was kind of funny. It's a different question. He said to me he purchased motors from me, which he did, and he's had them for a year, and now he wants to go to 600-ounce motors. Okay, or excuse me, I'm wrong. He didn't want to go to 600-ounce motors. He wanted to go to 400-ounce motors from 300-ounce motors. And let's think about that logically for a second. 100 ounce inches is not going to be a breaking point as far as torque capacity. So if you're using 300 and then you go to 400, is that really going to make a difference? Not a hell of a lot. You're much better off going 500 or 600 because you always want to have a little bit of leeway. This minimal perspective of stepper motors is good. Again, if you're not using it, you're wasting it. However, stay within reason. If you got a table you think you require 400 ounces of torque on, go with a 600-ounce stepper. Or go with a 550-ounce stepper. I would always stay at least 100 to 150 ounces over the absolute minimum my table requires. That's the way I feel. Now, everybody's different, and if you look at the price range, it really reflects that. I mean, you're going from 39 to 62 a piece from a 300 to a 600 ounce. That's nothing, guys. That's nothing in variance to price, and if you look at online, that's actually very, very reasonable considering what's out there. That's what I'm trying to do, is make you guys see that, I can fit motors to virtually any chassis. The big thing here is where you're at and what you need and what's going to be usable. I don't want to sell you something to where I see guys selling 400, as the Chinese are marketing 425 ounce steppers. When you're going from 300 to 425, you're not seeing a huge jump in torque. Once you go from 300 to 600, you're doubling your torque. Big difference. So keep that into consideration. That's why I do not do that. And again, that gentleman, I recommended the 600 ounce because again, I'm not going to carry, it does not pay for me to carry inventory on 400 ounce steppers when I'm already carrying 3. To let you guys know, just to keep you guys aware, I have designed a new NEMA 34 motor set that will be coming out shortly. For those of you interested, please message me. They will be released probably next month sometime. The NEMA 34s that I'm having produced are, believe it or not, engineered for the G540 and will put out, and I hope you guys are ready for this, I am having them put out 1,200 ounces, and I'm also having a NEMA 34 put out 1,600 ounces, but it's not really designed for the G540. It's a 5 amp motor. It will put out 1,600 ounces of torque. These are monsters, guys. I'm changing the way that we can motivate chassis, and when I say that, a lot of the things that you'll see done online typically is guys feel they need to go the Gecko's other route where they're going with the individual drives like the G201s or the new 320s. The big thing here is that you realize that the Gecko is a very, very powerful driver set when you understand it. And when I say that, once you understand the capacity of what you're dealing with, it's amazing. 2 weeks ago, I sold a driver set, and I'm getting off topic here, but it's good to let you guys know what's going on. I sold a driver set to a nice guy. His name is Cody, and he was using it. He was using it on a full-scale Bridgeport, okay, with NEMA 42 motors, guys. NEMA 42 motors, which are massive. They are massive motors. And he is machining engine blocks with the G540. Okay, so if you pair the motors correctly with the G540, you have an amazing value at motion control. So that should just tell you right now what this drive is capable of with the right motor combination. I can't emphasize that enough. Typically online we see a lot of the 3, 6. Now I want to go into more NEMA 34s, but you'll notice I'm not going to go just with an 800 ounce NEMA 23 or, a NEMA 24 or, even a NEMA 34. I'm not going to jump 200 ounces. I want to start showing guys that in full scale machines, we can now support their machine as well. And with the G540, it is capable to drive those motors. And that's something that's going to open up an entirely different door to guys that want to get into, having their own real full-scale mill and doing it with a component that is reasonable and letting them expand their shop. So overall, next month, keep an eye on that. But we all know we need motors. And again, that got me off track. I'm sorry for doing that, but I just wanted to let you guys know. Either way, 300, 600, coming up soon, 1200 and 1600. So that to me covers the gambit. There will not be a requirement for any motor past that unless you go into full scale size machining, which again, the one gentleman who purchased the Cody who bought the NEMA 42s, that was a prototype design that I come up with, and it worked out fine. The big thing here is that you guys understand what you're dealing with. Motors are very simple. Like I said, stay about 100 to 150 ounce over what the minimal capacity of your table is, and you'll be just fine. 3-axis will require, of course, 3 motors. A 4-axis system will, of course, require 4 motors. If you're running a tandem axis system, now please listen closely. If you're running a tandem axis system where you will be running on 2 motors on one single axis, you will require all 4 of the G540 drivers. Let me see if I can get a picture of her. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. This way it's just easier if I can give you more of a visualization. Here we go. We'll go to my solderless connectors real quick. Okay. If you're running 3-axis, you're going to use 1, 2, 3 of the drivers. If you're using a tandem axis where you're using, let's say on the X, you're using 2 motors to drive your X, you're also going to use the A axis. So you will no longer have a 4-axis controller. It will become a 3-axis controller. And in order to use tandem motors on a single axis, now I've said this in previous videos, but I still get questioned on it a lot. So I'm hoping everybody is going to watch these videos all the way through, because there's an education here that I'm providing for free that I hope everybody takes advantage of. Overall, what you will be doing is slaving the A axis to the X in the motion control software. We're going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to cover motion control software in a minute because that's another component you require. But it's very easy to do. It's through the software. Now, do I recommend tandem axis systems? I do not. I don't like them. There was a lot more maintenance involved. I've said this in previous videos. I think it's cheaper today and easier to just buy a larger stepper and run that axis with the larger stepper motor. For some reason, guys think that it's easier to use 2 smaller steppers to do the job of 1 larger stepper. I don't understand that logic, especially when it comes to maintenance. And again, I've been around full-scale machinery. I'm telling you right now, the funny thing is, whether it's a large-scale machine or a small-scale machine, the maintenance is the same. Okay? Anybody that tells you any different, it's BS. If you think it's easier to run 2 motors on 1 axis as it is comparably to run 1 motor on a single axis, even though it's a larger motor, it's just logic. You're not worrying about timing. You're not worrying about belts. You're not worrying about pulleys and as many bearings going. All of this stuff you have to troubleshoot if you have problems. Typically, it's timing problems. One axis will move out of coordination with another. You're just dealing with a lot of headaches. If you're a novice and you're just getting into it, I know a lot of these machines, they market that. They market, oh, well, we're running a tandem axis, it's this and this speed. Just look into it, because honestly, that's the best way to go. Keep it simple. You can always go tandem axis later on if you want, but overall, single axis, larger motor, you're much better off. So we've already covered now, if you require a 3-axis build, you're going to require 3 motors. If you require a 3-axis build using tandem motors on 1 axis, you require 4 motors and a 4th driver. So the Gecko is a 4-axis driver system, so therefore you'd be set to use it as a 3-axis tandem driver. If you decided to go 4-axis and use a tandem driver, which I have some guys do, you will require a 5-axis system. Okay, and why you need a 5-axis system? Once again, if you go up a driver, each motor requires a driver, so therefore you would need 4-axis and a driver. Okay, I do see one of my competitors likes to offer a Gecko with an extra G251X driver. To me, that's kind of half-assed. I just take 251s and make an entire system out of it, which is already what I've done with my 6-axis, which is actually buildable to a 6-axis system. And I did it for that capacity because, number one, you're using individual drivers, which to me makes more sense because it allows you as the consumer to say, okay, if I want to upgrade my system from 3-axis or 2-axis or 1-axis, I can at any point in time up to 6, instead of making you buy 5-axis. Doesn't make sense to me. So needless to say, just letting you know, that's how that works. Tandem axis, you're always going to require another motor and another driver. On top of course, another motor cable, more connectors, all of that. You're going to always need motor cables and connectors, and if you go with a solderless connector, you're always going to require a solderless connector if you buy from me to go with another motor. So if you message me and say, hey, add another motor to my package, and you get a message back telling you $90, you know why it's $90. It's not just a motor you're buying. First of all, you're paying for shipping. Secondly, you're paying for everything that comes with that. Okay, so there's a lot that goes with that. You're getting your motor, you're getting your motor cable, again, 300 volt, 80 degrees Celsius temp-rated cable, and you're also getting your solderless connector. So everything is fully supported. I will not sell a package that doesn't come complete unless you request it. Some guys already have components they want to use. God bless you, I'll do it, whichever way you want to do it. However, if you just message me and say, hey, I want this, I'm going to do it the right way and tell you this is what you need, because this is what you need. Going through, once we get past the motors, of course, power supply selection is pretty basic. Everybody knows you're going to need a power supply. 48 volts is definitely the way to go with the Gecko. There's really very minimal applications that wouldn't require 48 volts, or I don't see going less than 48 volts. Even if the speed you're not using, it doesn't really matter. I mean, overall, you're right there. If you ever want it, you've got it, and the price difference is not going to be that it won't be as varied. So I would stay with 48 volts overall. The question of amperage, I offer 12.5 amps because I say why not, especially with the price being what it is. It does not make sense to offer less than that, especially if you're doing a cooling system, as you should, incorporating a 48 volt fan along with the heatsink option. That should be a must. Everybody else is different. You can buy you can see here, I've got one of my competitors that's offering the motors with a 48 volt 7.3 amp. I mean, guys, here's the thing, and we're back to that square one again. You're looking at my motors that are 300 ounce and his are 381. Do you really think 81 ounces is going to make that much of a difference? I can tell you right now, if you really believe that, and I read this all the time, it's very silly. Think logically, makes sense. Most axis at the most on table size machines, maybe 150 ounce, maybe, if they're lucky. So that gives you an idea of where you're at with a 300 ounce, or if you go 600 ounce, you're way over. I mean, that's ultimate machining capability on a machine that size. So just keep that in mind. So once again, power supply, very simple, 48 volt, minimal. 12.5 amp is what I offer. You can get away with a 7.3. I'd be cautious of the 7.3 with a cooling system. Again, you're really at the baseline. I don't recommend it, but again, it's all based on your budget. You have some guys that'll think, oh, I can get away with it. Do it if that's what you want. Again, the guys that want to do it right, do it right. You're not looking at a huge price difference, and the variable there of knowing that your power is there and available in excess, you never have to worry. It makes sense. Again, my power supplies are selectable just as theirs are, so you're good there. The next thing you're going to need, once you've decided on your motors, you know you're going to go 300 or 600, is we're going to have to figure out what we want for our spindle and VFD. Now, that's a question that comes up constantly as to, what size spindle and what size VFD. Well, what do you plan on machining? If you're a person that plans on machining aluminum, then you definitely are going to require at least a 1.5 to a 2.2 is probably your optimal placement for that. Any type of metal substrate would easily be 1.5, 2.2. Anything less than that, 800, 300, I've seen 500, which are more like Dremel tools. You're fine using them with, soft substrates, wood, plastic, acrylic, you're fine with that. You're not going to have any problems. The big thing here is feed rate. You can use a Dremel tool, and I've said this in previous videos. If you're willing to, you can use a Dremel tool to cut steel. You just sit there for a long time. So be logical as to what you're using, what your applications are for your equipment. If you're willing to spend the money, if your budget supports it, and you say, hey, I want to do aluminum, and you realize that you're going to need a 2-2 spindle to go with it, do it. I mean, the price variable difference between spindle sizes today is not much until you start getting into them 3.3 or 3.2, 3.3, 4, 5, 6 kilowatt. Then you're talking massive power. And to give you guys just an idea, a 2.2 kilowatt spindle is equivalent to almost 4 horsepower. It's 3.95 horse. So the torque there is amazing in what your cutting capacity is. That is a lot of torque. Okay, so just keep that in mind. The 2.2 kilowatt spindle, you're going to be looking overall at between, I would say, starting base at 300, 3.25, all the way up until 1,000, depending upon, again, the size of the spindle you're purchasing. Okay, as far as quality goes, spindles are motors, guys. That's all they are, straight motors. There's nothing too spectacular about them. The big thing here is knowing, how many bearings you're getting, in the sense of, always make sure that the bearings that come with the system, you always want more than 2. A lot of guys, even Chinese manufacturers now are putting in how many bearings they actually include in the actual spindle. I always go with 4. My manufacturing is always with 4. I go with ISO 9001 specs, so your tolerances are on and certs are in place. So again, that's it. The spindle does nothing but spin. I mean, it's very simple. It's a giant motor. You don't see them American made much because the man hours to build them are extensive. And again, the quality, you're not going to see a huge difference in quality from China to us. I'm telling you now, they're all relatively the same because most of the Chinese are manufacturing for the U.S. So stepper motors are the exact same way. I get questioned on that. I got questioned the other day, who makes your steppers? What's the model number? I make my steppers. My steppers are engineered by myself. I engineer my own products. I then send that design overseas and have them actually made in a factory, OEM, the same way that most of the larger companies do. The difference is I come from larger manufacturing, so I understand the procedure, and I implemented it myself, which anybody can do. Okay, you see it done on Shark Tank all the time. Anybody can do it if they choose to do it. Again, I do understand CAD CAM, so my drawings are all to spec, and that's why the quality of the product you get, because I again do the research on the warehousing, I do the research on the manufacturing, the quality, make sure everything's in place, and I'm good. So that gives you guys basically the lowdown on the spindle and VFD. Of course, whatever spindle size you go with, you will require a VFD of the same capacity. So if you get a 2.2 spindle, you're going to, of course, require a 2.2 kilowatt VFD. If you go 800 kilowatt spindle, again, lower kilowatts or lower wattage spindles, you can always use a larger VFD as long as it's within reason. Use an 800 kilowatt spindle with a 1.5, you're fine. Once you start going like a 300 kilowatt spindle, you'd be careful because you could have overheating problems. So just keep that in mind. Then I get asked, water cooling, or would I go water cooling, or would I go air cooling on the spindle? Really, water cooling is the best optimal way to go. I mean, if you think of your car, water cooling is just smarter. It's a smarter application. The big thing with water cooling is, and I've seen this done as well, you got to figure in all the accessories with the spindle. And when I say that, once again, a guy will buy a VFD and a spindle and think he's done. No. You're also going to need, and this is something else, that another product I just released because of this, you're also going to need a spindle cable. Okay? And when I say get a spindle cable, guys, I mean a spindle cable. A cable designed for the kind of current and the kind of voltage that you'll be pulling, on top of the fact that the environment it'll be in. Your system typically will be in a shop or an industrial environment where it may be subjective to chemicals. It's certainly going to be subjected to high current from electrical noise and different variables there. You're dealing with conductors on your table. Your table most likely will be metal substrate, so it's going to amplify all that. I utilize 16 AWG double shielded industrial robotics cable. Now, you guys can use whatever you'd like. I have some guys saying, I'm going to use 18 AWG cable, foil wrap. That's fine. I'm telling you now, if you want no problems with EMI and you can rest at night knowing that the system, if it ever has an issue, it won't be from electrical noise, this cable will provide you the most sound system you can get. It is double shielded, industrial grade double shielded with foil and double shielded, and shielded with braided shield. Now I can tell you guys right now, do your research on braided shielding. It's by far more effective than just foil shielding. And on top of that, it's going to provide you with that sound security, knowing that with the double shield, you're not going to have electrical noise. As long as your system is properly set up and grounded, you will not have problems with noise. So keep that in mind. Very simple. Does come with the drain cable, of course. It's a 4-lead cable, so you're set to go there. It's temperature rated. On top of that, it's 600 volt rated for capacity. Just an extremely high quality cable, and it's not cheap. I'm not selling it cheap, and it's certainly not cheap. So I'm letting you know there's a difference between buying quality and just buying cable. Some guys go to Home Depot and think they're, hooking it up is no big deal, and then they get home, hook everything up, and then they pull their hair out trying to figure out where the noise is coming from while they're missing steps, while it's this, while it's that. They think the driver's bad. I get messaged then, and it goes back and forth until he figures out I used a piece of crap cable, and that's what's causing the problem. Do not cut corners. The more corners you cut with this kind of machinery, you will find you'll pay for it in the long run, either in time and money or both. So I'm telling you, do your research, take your time. Everything should be done with research. Everything should be done with logic, and move from there. But overall, with the VFD and the spindle, good quality spindle cable, good quality water pump. And here's my thought on a water cooling spindle. I know you can get them air cooled. I prefer water cooled. I told you why. I mean, it just makes more logical sense. Pumps, and I see the Chinese now are selling a lot of packages with the spindle and the pump and everything. Do yourself a favor, go over to Harbor Freight, grab a water pump, go to Home Depot, and there I recommend picking up Tygon tubing, which is industrial grade PVC tubing. It's clear, extremely high quality. Get whatever reducers you need to hook it up to your spindle, and being you bought that pump from Harbor Freight, you now have a warranty. So a pump is being used constantly, guys, and they do fail. So a lot of guys sit there and beat down Harbor Freight. Well, I'm not going to beat down Harbor Freight, because I'm telling you right now, I, like most people, will admit, or I should say, most people will not admit, or, I see, judging from the videos on YouTube, it's ridiculous, but a lot of my tools are from Harbor Freight, and I'll tell you what, if a screwdriver turns a screw, it turns a screw, okay? So remember that. My business is fundamental on saving money, and of course, doing this, most of you guys are going to figure that out soon if you haven't figured it out already. A lot of things you can get. If you can get it there, save your money, do it right. One thing I'm telling you is now Harbor Freight has offered it, and maybe I just came upon it myself, maybe they've offered it for quite some time. You could take an extended warranty out on just about anything you buy there. If you buy your water cooling pump there for your spindle, take the extended warranty out, you never have to worry about if that spindle pump goes from using it. You just walk back in and get an exchange. So it makes more sense doing that than buying one from China, and then if it fails, you got to order another one from China and hoping to get it in a certain amount of time. Most Harbor Freights are local, and even their shipping is more reasonable, on top of you being able to get 20% off with their coupons. So think about that. It makes sense. On top of the fact, a lot of guys are saying they're running ridiculous amounts of flow rates. You don't need to do that. Run a flow rate that, again, 300 gallon per hour is plenty of flow for that spindle. Okay, most jobs on your CNC, unless you're running 8 hours straight, you're going to be fine. Okay, and even then, on that kind of flow rate, I've yet to have trouble. The one thing I would recommend that I've not seen done, and I'm working on a new product, and one of the big things is I'm designing a Mister kit, but one of the big things I wanted to let you guys know is when you're looking at your cooling tank, you should be using something in capacity of an aquarium. Why I say an aquarium, it's number one, it's clear. You should be mounting it above your spindle on a shelf, and the reason I say that, and again, logic plays key here, if you're using gravity, okay, if you keep the pump actually flowing above the spindle, as soon as it goes past the pump's nozzle where it actually extrudes from the pump, goes past and clears the overhead of the actual aquarium, it's going to use gravity to then fall into the spindle. So again, you're going to get more pressure just out of that alone. On top of it being eye level, being it's mounted above your table, it'll be eye level, so you always see your coolant level. So think about it from that perspective. Sometimes logic plays the biggest role. And like I said, it's simple. Aquariums are designed to hold water. They're extremely clear, and they're cheap. You can pick them up on Craigslist. You can buy a used one and buy it ridiculously cheap. So again, what did we just find out? Where they're selling spindles and they're selling VFDs, you still need a pump if you're going water cooling. You still need Tygon tubing. You're still going to need a cable. So those are some more accessories. Keep that in mind, whether you buy it now or buy it later or wait to get everything. That is what you're going to require to hook everything up. Now, again, you could substitute what component you want. If you don't want to use an aquarium and use a 5-gallon jug, that's up to you. But that is what you're going to need. So just keep that in mind. Now, to cover pretty much the last components, I mean, I'm not going to go into chassis too much because you know you're going to need a chassis. And again, chassis prices can range anywhere from, I mean, just covering it in general. I'm going to go, oh, hell, might as well do it, right? A CNC 6040 is, oops, I didn't put a space there. Sorry, guys. Oh, it pulled up anyways. Okay. A CNC 6040 is still probably the biggest bang for your buck. Now they're pushing about $900 shipped. Probably overall the best kit I could say in that kind of price range on the market. I have guys wanting to build their own system, and really to do it with the quality of the componentry, they're using the same aluminum we'd use in the States, guys. They're using the same machines to put the holes in. Now, whether or not they're doing it with accuracy, I've bought 6 of these machines, and I can tell you every one was machined well within tolerance. So I would say, yes, they're totally available in the sense of quality that you can rest assured you'll get a machine that'll function perfectly with a G540. The big thing here is how you assemble it. And when that's never discussed, is that you got to use precision tools to assemble a precision machine. Does that not make sense? But yet it's never discussed. If you think about it logically, you see these kids building these 3D printers and they're using hand tools, and then they're wondering why their tolerances are off and this is off. If you're going to build a machine like this, here's what I suggest. Go and get yourself a nice torque screwdriver, a bottle of Loctite, and do it right the first time. Every screw should be torqued to the same amount of torque, pending, again, you have a torque rating. Most of them do not. If they don't have a torque rating, use common sense and implement a torque that makes sense for the application. Of course, a lead screw is going to be tightened much more than just your table railing. So think about it from that perspective, and you'll build a machine that's by far better suited for what you're doing. Okay, so because regardless of what you're machining, whether it be wood, plastic, steel, aluminum, whatever it may be, precision is what we're after. We're building a robot. I want precision. That's what I want. So when I build something, I want all the tools to do it right. That's who I am. That's why when you guys come to me and when I get questioned about my boxes, that's what I project, because that's who I am. Everybody's different in what they look at, but that's what I look at. And again, it's not really discussed a lot. If you're going to do this, guys, and you're going to assemble one yourself and you decide you want to put together a machine of this capacity, I seriously suggest you have all the tools. Stay away from inferior materials like wood and plastic. Get yourself, if you have to save, I can't state this enough, save your money and get yourself an aluminum or a metal substrate machine. You'll be far better off. First of all, your investment's far better off. It'll last longer. It'll hold tolerances much better. And on top of that, if you ever did go to sell it, you'll get more for it. You're not going to lose money with that, I promise you. Big thing here is the chassis is not what really makes a huge amount of difference once it's machined properly and assembled properly. It's the electronics, because the electronics are really motivating the chassis, and that's what gives the machine its direct precision. So everything has to work in harmony, but the big thing here is aluminum, whether it's manufactured here or in China. So please keep that into consideration and think before you buy. Okay, I will answer, of course, any questions you have with that, but chassis are, again, very basic. The 6040 I love, dollar for dollar, still best bang for your buck with a G540 setup. You can go 2.2 kilowatt. I have 2 machines set up with 2.2 kil spindles and 600 steppers, and I could tell you it's a monster. It'll machine virtually anything I've ever thrown at it. And again, feed rates are good. Precision is excellent. I do PMs on my machine, which is preventative maintenance every 2 weeks. I do assemble the machine with a torque screwdriver. I do go over tolerances, make sure everything is set. Again, that's just me. It's just my background. It's where, again, I understand what I'm dealing with. But it's amazing, and I can't state this enough, guys. Think about it from this perspective. If you're building something precision, if you had a machinist assemble a 3D printer, or you had a 10-year-old kid assemble a 3D printer, which one's going to come out better? Which is going to produce a part that you would be more likely to purchase? I can tell you. You know the answer. I mean, it's obvious, but it's never spoken about, and they make it look like it's so easy. You know, I just put this router together. I just screwed it together with wood screws. Really? I mean, come on now. We're building a robot. We're building a machine. We got to keep it precise. That's what we're after. That's what I'm after. If I go to make something, I want to make sure my tolerances are there, the repeatability is there, and again, that's what I'm looking for. So hopefully you were looking for the same. Again, machining, picking a chassis, as far as what you're going with, it's really just a matter of your budget, the size of the chassis you require. But overall, do not overlook China, because a lot of times, if you can buy just the chassis, just a setup like this, now again, this is just the chassis. You're not getting any steppers, you're not getting any electronics, just the chassis. For $900, it's an amazing deal. Okay, amazing deal. You're getting everything you need to build a chassis. The only thing you're really getting kind of wonky on is the fact that they don't really give you a really good set of instructions, because again, you have a language barrier, and this is about the amount of instructions you'll get. The good thing is most of them are pretty good in getting back to you if you do have any questions, and it's pretty self-explanatory if you're mechanically inclined and have seen these tables before, seen them assembled. I always recommend getting a picture of an assembled one, so that you can even request the manufacturer to send you a picture of an assembled one so you can use it as a diagram. It works really well, and it takes a lot of the guesswork out. But overall, keep that into consideration. Precision tools to build a precision machine. That's the way it's done. I mean, you don't see engine blocks being machined with hand tools. It doesn't happen. So think about that. It makes logical sense. Again, table size 6040 for a table size machine is probably one of the best. If you need a slightly bigger, check out the 6090. Excellent chassis, same functionality. Pricing is really reasonable. Again, China overall for the chassis in bare frame format, very, very hard to beat. Very hard to beat. So that covers your chassis. That's a pretty basic component. Next thing you're going to need with the chassis is you're going to require your couplers. Now your couplers, for those of you who really don't know, I'm just going to find my mouse if I can. Oh, it's on the screen. Here we go. Couplers are going to go right over here. Now you can see this chassis got them accordion type couplers. Well guys, I'm not a big fan of those accordion type couplers because they're made out of aluminum. They're super soft. They just don't hold tolerance really good. Okay, if you guys are doing woodworking, you might be okay with that. If you ever go aluminum, you might have problems. So when I say might have problems, whenever you say might have problems with one of these type of machines, always think of looking for the right couplers. Let me see if I can find the right couplers, and I'll show you. See what we can find. These are what I'm talking about that the machine typically come with, and you can see how cheap they are. They're crap. Stay away from those as much as possible. And I'll show you the ones that I recommend. Another one that's crap is right here. And I'm going to tell you why. These have a rubber insert, and they try to make it into a gimmick that it's much easier for you to install with the rubber insert. But if rubber is a soft substrate, it will give when the CNC changes direction. So you will get a slight amount of play, which will also create possible deviance in your machining. So once again, stay away from these if at all possible. Couplers, again, are transpiring motion, and if the transpiring motion to be accurate, the best thing you can do, let's see if we can find one of the ones I recommend, because I get asked it a lot. Let me see, and you can see which ones are typically on the market because these are dirt cheap. Let me see here. Unfortunately, I'm not coming up with one. Rather than waste your time, I'll try on page 5 and we'll just see what comes up, and maybe we'll get lucky. Because you also have solid couplers too. These are flexible because they have them fringes. The solid couplers are all one piece, and again, you can see These are more stable. Again, they don't allow any adjustment, so if your shafts are out of alignment, these will not work. You will put pressure on them and you will be out of tolerance there. So keep that in mind. You definitely want a flexible coupler, but you want a higher quality. Actually, we'll go zero backlash. Hold on. Zero backlash. Here we go. Okay. Quarter by quarter bore, stainless, zero backlash. Now you can see the slits in that material are virtually the same. They're heel coil, virtually the same as the aluminum ones. However, these are stainless, guys. These are the real deal. This seller I've bought from before. He does provide some of the best couplers I've seen. These are professional grade. You're not going to have any problem with them. These are the type of material you should be using. Again, if you are going to use aluminum, then I would recommend you definitely, let's see here, see if we can find one of the aluminum ones with the discs. Let me see. I'll have to do, maybe I'll do another video on that so I can show you, because I just can't find one right now. Zero backlash disc. Let's see something. No, it's going to probably pull up all the helicoils. Either way, these are definitely, wow, this one right here is a great deal. I don't know if that's a piece or just one. Usually it's just one. Yep. Each one of these, and this is how you'll know. Look at the price on this is each. You're looking at $22 a piece as compared to like $6 a piece. Guys, big difference. Here it is. Here we go. These are the ones I recommend if you're getting aluminum. These are excellent. And they offer the dual discs, so they do offer some shock dampening as far as you actually having two shafts out of alignment. These are amazing couplers. And again, look at the price, okay? It's a big deal as far as what size, of course, you're getting, but overall, you're looking at about another $60 to $100 easily on your couplers, because your couplers are transferring all that motion's energy, or the motor's energy, to your table. So you definitely want these to be precise, and you want as little backlash as possible. They all say zero backlash. Every coupler has a certain amount of backlash. The most minimal, the better you'll have. But these are excellent as far as the aluminum. The helicoil are excellent for zero backlash as well. I can get the helicoil. I can also get those. They're special order items. I haven't brought them into the store yet. That'll be my next thing. But overall, these are your couplers. I highly recommend these. Do it right. These will provide, if you're doing especially metal machining, amazing. Woodworking, I mean, you'll probably get away with the softer ones, those generic ones. I'm not a big fan of them. I like, again, I do a more metal substrate now, so I'm always staying with zero, as little backlash, I should say, not zero, but as little backlash as possible, even though they're actually listed as zero. But overall, so now we got the table basically under foundation. We've got our table. Pardon me a second, I got to get a drink. We've got a table basically done. We know we need couplers. The next thing we need now to complete everything, we got our electronics, we got our motors, we got our table, we got the VFD, we got the spindle, got the water pump, aquarium. Everything here is all set. Got our couplers. What we need to finish everything off now is probably more critical than everything else, and that is the software, because without proper software, you will not be able to make what you want to make. So to start off with software, I'm a big fan of CNC Drive motion controls. CNCDrive.com is an amazing website. I suggest you guys check them out. UC-CNC software is the software that supports the UC100. It also supports UC300, UC400, ETH. I love the UC100 because it's a plug-and-play controller adapter. It converts the DB25 parallel port on the Gecko G540 to a USB format with internal processing. This is not a typical printer cable, guys. It has an internal processor. I'll cover it in a minute. Motion control software is required, and for those of you not sure what motion control software is, you will require 2 pieces of software mandatory for any CNC. Okay? I'll say it again. You will require mandatory 2 pieces of software to motivate your CNC and convert your ideas to reality. This is how we do it, guys. First, you need your CAD CAM, which we're going to discuss after this. Second, you're going to need the go-between software, which is your motion control software. What the motion control software does is translate all of the CAD CAM inputs from G-code and translates them, sends the signal then to your stepper driver, which can decipher where those motors now are going to go based on what you've put into the G-code. Okay, so basically how it works is you design in CAD CAM your product. Once the design is there and you say, okay, I'm going to take you through production. It's real simple. First, you design your product. You have a prototype you're going to go with. Then you're going to do proof of concept. Okay, this is what factories do, guys. Proof of concept is very simple concept. All you're going to do is say, okay, will my idea work? So then you go to produce the idea. Okay, so now you've already done your CAD CAM and you're ready to go to prototype, proof of concept, and you go then to run the prototype. It's going to go right from there. That file's been created. You're going to then take that file and load it into your motion control software, which in this case will either be UC-CNC or Mach 3. We just haven't gotten there yet. But you load it into UC-CNC. It then takes that file that was created from your CAD CAM of all that G code, and that's when it starts decimating all of them inputs to your driver. Once it does that, it's then transpiring that information not only to your driver then assimilates that all then to your motors, and that's how you get your prototype or to actually justify proof of concept. Once we get proof of concept, you go from there and so forth. But overall, that's how this is all undertaking. I mean, it's very, very simple in the sense that this software basically is the go-between, the actual handheld go-between of your CNC driver to your computer. So this software is super critical. You will be using it all the time. If you're really serious about CNC, this is the software to learn first and foremost, because you will do all of your settings in this software. It controls your machine. So think about it from that perspective. This is the software that will control your robot. So if you don't understand it or if you don't take it serious, you're going to have headaches here. Learn the software. The good thing about UC-CNC, it's only a 40-page manual. It supports up to 6-axis, super capable software. In a lot of cases, it's actually faster than Mach 3. But it's still in its infancy stages. They're still going through and revising it. So of course it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of Mach 3. But that being said, you got to weigh what you want to do. If you're a guy looking to get into CNC, don't have a lot of machining knowledge, UC-CNC software is amazing. It will walk you through a lot of things. Their support is excellent. Balzis is one of their lead engineers over there who's worked on the software. Super support. We'll get back with you right away. He's basically worked on this software exclusively, so any of the information you get, you're getting it from the horse's mouth, so you know everything is right there. It's just the way to go. I mean, overall, I can't speak highly enough about it. It's excellent software. It's super easy to use. It's run on every operating system available, including tablets. I've seen it run basically all across the gamut. It's just a matter of which one you prefer. And again, do your research. Come on the website at cncdrive.com. Do your research before you spend your money and see which one makes more sense for your application. Now, that being said, the caveat here about UC-CNC software is not just the ease of use, but it's also the fact that the software itself can only be used with a UC100. Now, a lot of guys say, okay, now I got to buy another component just to use it. Okay, but let's think about something here. The UC-CNC software is about $40. The UC100 that works in conjunction with it, or the UC300 or UC400, I again prefer the UC100, is only going to raise the price to about $150 to $170. Now, if you guys do the math there, one copy of Mach 3 by itself, let's see if I've got it right here, one copy of Mach 3 is going to run you $160 to $175, and you're not converting your system to USB. So you'll be stuck with a parallel port and using Mach 3, or you could buy a copy of UC-CNC and get the UC100. Again, this controller is amazing. I'm going to cover it right now. And you'll get that for the same price. Now, why do I like the UC100? Well, first of all, if anybody is not familiar, the Gecko utilizes a parallel port. Most CNC controllers utilize a DB25 parallel port. This controller cable essentially takes the DB25 and converts the signal from DB25 to USB format. And the reason it does, or the way it does that, is it has an internal processor inside this case that actually alleviates a lot of the processing done by your CPU on your computer and transpires the signal. So guys, you are not using just a cable here. That's why this cable is so expensive. It actually has an internal processing unit. It's an amazing design, works extremely well, super streamlined, super fast to hook up, install the drivers and go to town. That's what I like about it. It's very simple. A lot of guys like Ethernet Smooth Stepper. I personally feel they're overpriced. On top of the fact you have to wire it in, it doesn't make sense logistically unless you really need a long cable run, which most guys don't. So overall, you can change the length of cable that comes with this. I think it comes with like a 10 or 11 inch cable, I think, or maybe 6. I can't remember exactly. It comes with just a standard USB cable, but you can change the length. It is a USB format, so again, super easy to use. It works with any Windows operating system. No more parallel port crap stuck with 32-bit Windows XP, which is barely supported anymore, or Vista. A lot of guys, some guys like it. I'm one of the ones that dislike it because I like using the latest technology. Latest technology means easier drivers to find, easier things to stay up to date with. It's just a smoother operating system overall, and it just makes sense. But that's my own feelings. Everybody has their own budget, and everybody has their own feelings. So that's overall my suggestion. So when you're looking at your motion control software, and again, you will either need UC-CNC, or you're going to need Mach 3. And there's also Mach 4 now. Again, for those guys that want to go Mach 4. Does it pay financially? I don't think so. But some guys may want to go Mach 4. Mach 3 has basically all the features anybody will ever need. Okay, I mean, it's without a doubt, it's got a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of adjustments. Which one you go with really dictates what you plan on doing in the future. If you really want to learn machining on every aspect, Mach 3 is going to be your best friend. UC-CNC will get you there going. Later on, you can always upgrade to Mach 3 as you decide you need it. But because the UC100 is user-friendly, with Mach 3. So you can use the UC100 with Mach 3. You just can't use a parallel port with the UC-CNC software. So if you guys are looking at this software, just keep in mind you have to get a UC100 to utilize it. So other than that, motion control software is very basic. You guys understand that now. Mach 3 does have support for lathes, mills, routers, lasers, plasma cutters, engravers, and gear cutting. I mean, it's got all kinds of stuff. You really got to just weigh which way you want to go with that. Ease and simplicity, UC-CNC. Depth and bells and whistles and extensive support, I go with Mach 3. Okay, now I offer a CAD CAM package I just came out with, and my CAD CAM package utilizes Mach 3, a UC100, and Bobcad V21 CAD CAM with every available module. Now, we're going to finalize the last part, probably the most important part of your build, with the selection of your CAD CAM. So we're going to come over here to Vectric, and I've got Vectric's prices and software set up, and I want to prove to you guys some things. I want to show you what you need to be aware of, okay, to make you a smart shopper, conscientious shopper that you are. If you look here at Cut2D, this is their basic desktop version. Now guys, I love Vectric. I've been a Vectric fan and user for years. The one thing about Vectric though that I've noticed over the years is they've changed their formats a lot. And when I say that, Cut2D, when I purchased it, there was no desktop and Pro, it was just Cut2D. There was no VCarve and VCarve Pro, it was just VCarve. Now they've gotten to the point where they like to make separate, categories. I don't know if that really needed to be done. I kind of find that to be more of a pricing strategy for themselves. So be it. Who am I to complain? I'm not doing a review. What I am doing, well, I guess I am kind of doing a review. What I am doing is I want to break down some of the small details that need not to be overlooked. Cut2D by itself is limited to a 24 by 24 or 600 by 600 mil capacity. So if you buy this base software with no modules, just the basic two-dimensional software, you're paying $149, but you're limited to a 2 foot by 2 foot machine. Now what's funny is This version and the VCarve desktop version all have that limitation. So if you jump up from 149 to 349, you're still limited to use a 24 by 24 machine. If you go to Pro, you don't have that limitation. The only limitation you do have is a 1-year upgrade as far as any release updates that are released. I don't understand that either. Okay, if I pay for the software, why don't I get updates all the time? Unless you change the software completely, I don't see that. But what I'm seeing now is they're kind of getting to this a la carte stage where you're going to pay each individual component. And I mean, guys, 2D machining is $149. Cut 3D is $300. Photo VCarve is an additional $149. You could see it's almost like going to the pizza place and ordering toppings for your pizza. I'm not big on that. I'm not big on when you say, well, you know, I'm going to need this, and then later on I might want to do some 3D machining. So I went from $3, now I'm at $440. You can see how expensive this gets, and these are the real prices right here live. This is what you're seeing right now. Aspire is $2,000. Okay, and Aspire is their flagship software. It's ridiculous in what it can do as far as art. It's extremely capable as far as art. As far as machining metal, none of this software is really the best for metal substrates. It lacks a lot of detail in that capacity. So again, this is more, Vectric is more for the artsy type person who's doing more engraving, V-carving, you know, straight up cutouts. If you're doing straight cuts, you're good. As far as ease of use, excellent software. As far as support, excellent software. Not a huge support with videos. Not a huge. I mean, overall, it's got some, but it's not as big as some others. And that's what kind of made me shy away from Vectric because of that. I didn't like the a la carte on the modules. I think that that's ridiculous. I think you guys should be able to do your machining in a way that makes sense financially and makes sense to make you money. And let's be real, the more capacity your software has, the more capability your machine has and you have to make your profit margin greater. So that being said, I went over to Bobcat. Now, one of the big things about Bobcat that I like is that it's US based, guys. Number one, they're 30 miles from me. The actual manufacturing facility is 30 miles from my house. So I'm telling you right now, I've done a lot of research. Bobcat over the years has had mixed reviews. It's had positive reviews and it's had negative reviews. Negative reviews typically go around their sales tactics back from the 90s. Well, they've changed their staff a lot. And they changed their sales tactics a lot. And Bobcat is used by Fortune 500 companies. Now, Vectric may be used by Fortune 500 companies. I don't know of any. I'm sure they are. Bobcat is used by the likes of Ford, UCF, oh my God, Boeing, who else? Lockheed Martin. I know that for sure because when I was doing firearms, we did a couple weapons for them. It's just amazing is that, you know, the viability of what is capable and at a price point, because Bobcat is not cheap. And one of the ways you know it's not cheap, and guys, I can't state this enough. I'm sure you guys realize this. When some place says call for pricing, you know you're dealing with someone who's going to give you a price at that time, meaning they're pricing it to who you are based on what you're spending at that point in time. If you don't see an advertised price, that's an old school retail strategy that I'm going to tell you, hey, this is my business model, and you're going to say, okay, I'll give you a price at that point. So you can rest assured it's in the thousands. They are not used to dealing with small shops. Matter of fact, look at the machinery that you're dealing with. I mean, it is what it is. These are full-scale facilities that use Bobcat. And guys, guess what? NASA uses Bobcat. Okay? Take that into consideration when you talk about capability of product design. We're talking full capability of product design. Today, you might want to do engraving. You might want to do some V-carve, okay? You might want to use the likes of Vectric, but tomorrow, you may decide, hey, you know what? I want to machine myself a valve cover emblem. Okay, well, guess what? You might be able to achieve that with Vectric. It's certainly not going to be as, how can I say, expanded in capability as you will with Bobcat. Okay, but the problem with Bobcat is two things. It's more complex software. It definitely is because it has more capability, but Each module, again, is also priced individually. Okay, especially if you're going over here and we look at V28, it's their latest and greatest version of the software. Well, it was up to me to put forth the effort to see if I could use an older version of the software, because who cares about all the bells and whistles if you guys don't need them, and give you all the modules that let you do every type of machining from the art. And here's the thing I really want you guys to do. Come on Bobcat's website. You don't have to download anything, and just check out what you're looking at with Bob Art, because essentially Bob Art is all of Vectric in a nutshell. And with V21's CAD CAM that I offer now, it does include the Bob Art module, and it will allow you to do Bob Art machining, which is very similar in turn to VCarve and to Aspire. That's exactly what it was designed for. It lets you transpire pictures into artwork for engraving. Okay, that's just one module. The next module I've included, which again in Vectric is an add-on module, is the nesting module. Now, for you guys that don't know what nesting is, it lets you put all of your individual components. If you're doing 100 brackets, you can see this piece is all set up. Matter of fact, you can come over here and play the video if you come on here. I hope you do. And it lets you put all those pieces on a solid piece of raw material so that you can get as many on there as possible with optimal spacing without wasting any of your raw material, or as little as possible. Very powerful software, guys. If you're serious about learning manufacturing and serious about doing this for your business or anything, if you find a part that all of a sudden you stumble on, it makes sense, and now you've got, because guys, let me tell you how the principle usually works. You make a part, you feel like you realize it has a use, or someone knows it has a use, they contract you to build it. All of a sudden you go proof of concept, it works. After proof of concept, you start manufacturing the component, and you start realizing, oh my God, now this guy wants 500 of these. How do I make it? This is where nesting comes in. And believe me, it happens fast. It happens really fast. You could be making brackets, you could be making subwoofer boxes. I've had guys make everything you can imagine, and nesting is one of the tools that's used all the time. That's why I include it. Again, it's required. The next thing that the system has is full support from mill, CAD, CAM, along with lathe, and it supports every CNC basical type machine. And if you think about it, plasma, water jet, CNC router, CNC wire cutting, virtually everything. Anything you can think of, CNC laser cutting, anything you can think of as a robot will be supported by Bobcat with an unlimited amount of machining capability, not just in two-dimensional, but three-dimensional machining as well. Now, let's look at something here. Okay? Now that I've explained that to you, okay, and I'm showing you right here, each one of these, Cut 3D is 300 by itself, Cut 2D is 149, Cut 2D Pro is 449, and that takes away the limitation of the 24 by 24 inch table. Do the math, guys. If you're buying Cut 3D and then you come up here to Cut 2D Pro, or even to Cut, you're still over $300 easily. Okay, and that's just this one piece of software. I really cannot emphasize enough, and I'm going to come back over here because I've got it, and I know it's up here somewhere. Let's see if we can find it. Just give me 1 second. I want to keep this as interesting as possible without boring you to death, but I cannot emphasize that you guys need to do your research, because I've spent hours doing research on this and trying to figure out what's the best I can offer you in dollars and cents. Let's see if it's in my store. We'll just go into my store real quick. It's down here somewhere. We'll find it. Was, unless I passed it. Okay. Here's one of my larger packages, and this is a full complete, including even the actual computer itself. But Here are the actual, some of them, and I mean there's extensive lists. You guys can contact them, they'll tell you. These are some of the companies. But down here, here's the capabilities of this software. And guys, let me tell you something. It's amazing what it can do. Matter of fact, here's some of the V-Carve machining and art. You can do the embossing. You can see it's three-dimensional. I mean, it is absolutely amazing. And of course, in my CAD/CAM package, I am including the training videos. There's over 200 training videos, 10 hours of instruction step by step of how to use it, on top of the hardcover shop manuals, which for Mach 3 along with Bobcat is over 650 pages. So you have cross-reference in both hard copy and you have digital cross-referencing material. I mean, honestly, I've done everything I can possibly do to give you the best of every possible aspect you can get. And you can see here, this is V21. This is actual screenshots of V21 and what you can machine with this. This is very, very capable, powerful software. And the big thing here is it's not going to break the bank. And when I say that extensively, okay, this is just one of the packages. I also have a package with the Gecko, just the Gecko itself, because I did have guys ask me, can I buy just a Gecko in the software? Yeah, you can buy that. One of the things about Bobcat is in order for me to be able to offer it to you guys, I have to offer it with hardware because I'm not allowed to compete with Bobcat. So please understand that. So of course it is being sold with the Gecko. Again, you're looking at prices here for CAD/CAM and you're looking at individual capability. Each one of these modules are going to set you back hundreds. With V21 right now and the software package and the Gecko, I believe I've got it priced at $750, I believe. And the package even includes a $500 off coupon from Bobcat if you ever decided you wanted to upgrade. So if you think about that, guys, I mean, realistically, none of this crap comes with even close to any of that. If you buy the Gecko, it's $300 by itself. If you're paying $750, you're only paying $350 for the software. You look at Cut 2D and it's $149, or Cut 2D Pro and it's $449. Look at Mastercam. Look at all the other CAD/CAM softwares that are under $1,000 and see if it will do what this package will do, and include the training or the support that's available locally in the US. And I'm telling you, I've done my homework. There's a reason I've picked it. I know for a fact if you have a shop and you have an idea, that software, if you're willing to take the time to learn, watch the videos, utilize the hardcover books, you will learn machining at an entirely different level. And that, or at least have the option to. You know, if you just want to do V-Carve, so be it. But there may be a day you don't want to just do V-Carve. You want to do something else. I didn't want you to have to continuously pay these upgrade ridiculous prices if you could do it all one time and be done reasonably. You know, rather than sit here and pay $149, I'd rather pay $350 and be done. You know, knowing that I've got that much more power under my belt with that kind of software and saying, hey, I'm done. Now, there are some guys that say, all I'll ever need is this. That's different. You know, but what I'm saying is for bang for your buck, overall bang for your buck, what you're looking at doing, what you're looking at machining, that's what I've put together, and that's why I came up with it. Do your homework, check it out. Once again, this finalizes basically everything you're going to need for your CNC. You're definitely going to have to pick the CAD/CAM, and again, pick out which version you want to go with. You can go with Vectric, you can go with Bobcat, you could go with Mastercam, you could go with SheetCam. I mean, there's so many different variables of what you want to go with, but always measure the capability and then measure your budget, because usually they go hand in hand. When the ones are really, really cheap, your capabilities suck. The ones that are really expensive usually have more capability than you'll ever use, and that sucks. You want a balancing act. That was what I was really after. On top of the fact with the discount coupon, you really can't beat that. I mean, even if you do the math, the Gecko is $300, and if you figure it out, or $275 on eBay or whatever it costs, if you bought the Gecko by itself at $275 and you got CAD/CAM software with every available module and a $500 off coupon for another $300. So you're looking at about $350 with a $500 off coupon on an upgrade if you ever decide to. Or you could sell the coupon. I mean, realistically, it is what it is. if you look at the math, guys, I've done the homework. Like I said, the work is done, but I wanted to break it down for you because, again, one of the big concerns here with V-carb and the others, please excuse me, I'm getting a drink, is that fact, is that you're always dealing with stupid stuff. Even here, V-carb Pro backup media, what does that consist of? A disc? They want $50 for a disc? Come on, guys. I mean, that's ridiculous. They're getting to the point where, again, I love them. I think their software is great, but certain things I just don't understand. I think they're a little bit pricey. And even when you come down here to the product bundle, V-carb desktop and photo V-carb is $449. The biggest amount of savings they're giving you is $49, and this is hundreds of dollars in software. It's just not beneficial. I mean, if you do the math here, Cut2D and Photo V-carb is $249, and that's just the desktop. If you do this, Photo V-carb and Cut2D is $549, and that doesn't include Cut3D, which would be another $300. I am telling you now, it's just getting ridiculous. Once again, just do your research, check everything out, and you'll complete it the way you want and what matches your budget. But overall, I think you'll see my point. That's the most bang for your buck you're going to get. On top of the fact it does make a USB system. The way I've got it set up with the UC100, you are getting a USB system in that package that I just showed you with the computer. Now, if you buy the Gecko by itself, it does not include the UC100, I believe. I don't believe I did that. I got to look and see. You can check the auction out and we'll validate it. But overall, I think you get the gist of it. Now you know in detail what you're going to need. The last thing is, and this is something that a lot of guys think they need, they buy homing switches. Okay? I don't know where this thing came up with homing switches. I think, honestly, with 3D printers, limit switches and homing switches have come up routinely. Home switches, truthfully, are really only required if you're doing the same homing location, machining the same thing all the time. If you want your machine to be in the exact same spot all the time where you're going to start machining, home switches are worth it. If you're not and you're machining different things all the time, it's not necessarily worth it. So take that into consideration. And limit switches, totally optional. You have soft limits in your software. That is what you should be using. Overall, always eliminate any component that can fail, especially a component that's supposed to be protecting the machine. So please take that into consideration, and take into consideration if you are going to use home switches or limit switches, you will require shielded cable to mount them and use them. I get guys that'll always order the switches without the cable, so think about that. And if you're going to use cable and you're not going to use mine, just make sure it's shielded. Preferably 18 gauge is the best. They should always be grounded, so you eliminate any noise going to them, and you'll be good to go. That'll pretty much sum up everything. Home switches I like to be more or less set up in a predicament where they're in a plug format. I'm not a big fan. I see a lot of guys using the terminal block and connecting them directly to the terminal block. The easiest way to do it, guys, is use a phono plug and drill a hole after you used a mono phono plug, and then just plug it in, and you're set to go. Using shielded cable is the overall best way to do that. Again, it's professional, it'll look right, and it'll perform the way it should, and allow for easy access if you ever have to plug in or plug out things. The other little accessory items that a lot of guys overlook, now that are available in my store, and I'm coming up with new things every day to help you, are the wiring diagrams that are adhesive backed. Guys, I do graphics professionally. That's something I've done when I was going through school. I started tinkering with graphics, and I have professional equipment. I have Graphtec vinyl cutter and wide format printer, Epson. So, I mean, I can do, basically, if you had a factory or you had a product you needed labeled, don't be afraid to message me. We could put something together. But overall, I also do wiring diagrams now for the Gecko. So on your box, if you do want a diagram put on the box, or just an overall diagram for your shop, you can definitely contact me. I've got them in my store now. They're available. They're very cheap. I mean, I think they're $7, and the main reason that I got to pay shipping, I got to pay eBay, and it is what it is. But we can make it happen. If you have something, an idea, and you want it done on graphic vinyl, just let me know. But overall, now you can see everything that's involved. So when I'm asked, hey, can you give me a package with everything? Please be explicit. Be explicit in understanding what is going to take to build a system, and be explicit in understanding what you're asking me, so I can be as detailed as possible in giving you the correct price for what you need. I mean, overall, that's the big thing. So just keep that in mind. And like I said, there's going to be other questions you guys will have. Just message me and we'll come up with some things. But overall, now you have a pretty good understanding of where you're at dollar-wise. If we were going through the video, you've heard me speak of values. You could just be tallying this all up and check what I'm saying, because I know what I'm saying is right. I've gone through and I've done the homework, and this is really what you're looking at. And again, buying a quality system, it does take time, it does take effort, and just be prepared for what that entails. But I'll tell you what, it's super rewarding, especially knowing that once you guys master these machines, and I can't emphasize that enough, it may take you a year or 2 years, but here's the thing, okay? If you dictate a college degree at 4 years, typically a college degree is 4 years, most likely 6, depending upon how many prereqs you take and all that neat stuff. Then you figure in funding. If you based your time on learning CNC and taking the time to learn the programming and understanding the software, and you give yourself a year and a half, you're doing that in about half the time, and you could be profiting all along the way while learning and teaching a trade to yourself. So really, you're investing in yourself, and if you're willing to invest in yourself and look at this, and some guys say they're looking at it as a hobby, don't always look so shallow, in the sense that hobby one day will turn into something bigger, because it does. Typically it does, especially when you realize that you're using a machine that's just smaller than the factories are using to produce 98% of everything in the US and around the world today. I mean, that's really what we're getting at. We're getting at more with technology of what's available. So just keep that in mind and always weigh things. And like I said, if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to help you. Again, please watch the video fully. I hope you've watched it to this point. I know it's long, but I want it to be very detailed and hopefully cover as many questions that may come up as possible. So once again, eDealers Direct, eBay. The name is Vince. If you need anything, lead engineer at eDealers. I'll take care of you. Thank you.